What's up, my comic comrades? The live-action Avatar series is out in the wild on Netflix, and today we're going to run down the 10 best villains from the Avatar universe. As you might imagine, this is a really tough one because the antagonists in this series are so epic and really one of the best parts of the show. Nevertheless, this list has been hatched, and we're going to start with our 10 pick. Also, stick around because I'm going to give you my thoughts on Flexi Spot's dope ergonomic chair later in the episode. Now let's dive into some Avatar villains, shall we? First up, we have Hama, the Bloodbender, also known as the Puppet Master. You see, she's a waterbender from the Southern Water Tribe who was imprisoned by the Fire Nation during the Fire Nation's raids on her village. While in prison, she developed the art of bloodbending by practicing on rats, ultimately mastering it, allowing her to manipulate the water inside of any living being, including humans. She would use this technique on one of the guards to control him like a puppet to open her cell door and free her. We first see her in Book 3 of The Last Airbender in the episode titled The Puppet Master. In that episode, we learn she moved to a small Fire Nation village and became the keeper of a small inn. We learn the reason she did this is because she would kidnap Fire Nation villagers and imprison them as an act of revenge for what the Fire Nation did to her all those years ago. And she wants to teach bloodbending to Katara so the form will live on and hopefully be used against the Fire Nation, which she succeeds in by forcing Katara to bloodbend in order to save Sokka and Aang. Essentially, Hama serves as a consequence of war and shows how far someone is willing to go in order to survive and get revenge. She's a morally ambiguous character, which is what makes her so cool. Nonetheless, her actions are certainly villainous. Next up, we have Sparky Boom Man, later renamed Combustion Man by Sokka. Combustion Man is a firebending assassin who was hired by Zuko to find and kill Avatar Aang. Now, even though Combustion Man is a firebending assassin, his firebending is not the traditional, but rather a subform called combustion bending. You see, via a third eye tattoo on his head, he's able to channel and project explosions from the third eye. The reason he's above Hama is because he's a straight up villain. He's literally a hired assassin. But also a sheer cool factor. When he first showed up and we all saw this dude can shoot explosions from his forehead, we were like, what the heck is happening? Introducing a completely new form of bending. He's one of those villains that doesn't have a whole lot of depth to him, but his sheer cool factor alone makes him so memorable. Speaking of memorable, his death was extremely memorable. Sokka was able to throw a boomerang at him, hitting him right in the third eye, which made his combustion bending go haywire. And the next time he tried to use his combustion bending, it essentially imploded in on himself, killing him. At number 8, we have Kuvira. She's the villain of the final book or season for The Legend of Korra. She's initially introduced as a minor character who we initially didn't know as a villain. She's an extremely skilled metal bender and the captain of Suyin Bifeng's guard. Now, that wouldn't last for long, as several episodes in, we realize she's actually setting out to be the evil dictator of the Earth Empire. Like a lot of villains, she thinks she's doing the right thing, but she's not. Her whole arc and story revolves around her wanting order and to unify the Earth Kingdom under her rule. At the beginning of season 4 or book 4, we think this is a good thing and that she's gonna do it fairly. But as the story continues, we realize she's becoming extremely authoritarian as she forces her rule over the Earth Kingdom. Eventually, she goes as far as to force Varrick, the eccentric billionaire inventor of the series, to use spirit energy, which he was able to tap into and integrate into technology to create a giant freaking robot that would force her rule wherever need be. It all comes down to that her motivations for order are indeed good, but the execution, being willing to sacrifice personal liberties to make it happen, makes her one of the series' best villains. Now we have Tarlock. He is also from The Legend of Korra, and much like Kuvira, he wasn't revealed to be a villain at the start. Initially, we slowly learn of his villainous ways as the series progresses. He is the councilman of the Northern Water Tribe in Republic City. From the jump, you get vibes that this dude is clearly in power to push his own political influence for his gain. As the series progresses, he creates an anti-bending task force as an answer to the Equalist event, called the Revelation, which is where we learn of the character Amon's ability to remove Bender's bending, and much like Kuvira, he uses authoritarian means to keep order in Republic City. Creating the anti-bending task force doesn't seem too bad, but Tarlock wanted to fight this anti-bending movement with violence and extreme prejudice rather than negotiate peacefully. He was willing to go to extreme lengths to win against the Equalists at any cost, even if it meant innocent lives would die in the process. And on top of all that, it's revealed that he's a bloodbender who uses his bloodbending to control and manipulate others, furthering his own personal desires and political gains. In short, what makes Tarlock such a good, compelling villain is that he represents how dangerous unchecked power and ambition is. Next up, we have Vatu. Now, some people may think Vatu should be higher on the list simply because he is the personification of evil, being one of the two ancient spirits that embody the concept of balance in the world, the good side being Rava. In Book 2 of the Legend of Kora, Vatu is setting out to escape his imprisonment in the spirit world so that he can bring a brand new age of darkness to the world. Vatu's appearance in Book 2 of the Legend of Kora is dope, as we learn a lot about the avatars, like how they were created and why there must be balance. Vatu is probably the most powerful villain in the Avatar universe, considering he's a malevolent force that is able to corrupt spirits by bending them to his will. He's essentially the Avatar version of the devil. I mean, the only way Kora was able to defeat him was with a damn Susanoo, or her own take on one. She went spirit mode, creating a gigantic spirit version of herself to defeat Vatu. But let's sum this up nice and simple. Vatu is the Avatar spirit of darkness and chaos. Homeboy even destroyed Rava, the spirit of light and peace, who created the avatars while he was the dark avatar, severing Kora's connection to every past avatar. He is one of the biggest threats in this universe. Now, before we get into our number 5 pick, let's take a look at a dope chair. Like many of you, I spend most of my day in a desk chair, and after a while, a cheapo one can cause back pain and just get uncomfortable. But today's sponsor, FlexiSpot, created a dope solution. I've been trying out their C7 and I'm digging it. Their self-adaptive dynamic system has a lumbar support cushion that detects subtle changes in your posture and automatically adjusts itself as you move around to ensure constant support. It's like an AI for your spine, which is great. I also especially like the forward-leaning position, which helps relieve pressure and prevents fatigue during long hours of sitting. Gamers, I'm looking at you. The C7's 20-inch seat provides tons of leg room if you like sitting cross-legged, and adjusts in all kinds of directions to match your height and weight, from 5'4" to 6'2", and supports up to 300 pounds. It's available in both mesh and foam options, and for peace of mind, they offer free 30-day returns, and your chair comes with a 10-year warranty. But guess what, Variant Nation? If you grab yours today using our exclusive code VARIANT, you'll enjoy a sweet $30 discount. It's the best time to buy the C7. Just click the link below. At number 5 is Unilock. What makes him so high on this list is he's actually the reason for Vatu's release in the world. He straight up tricked his niece Kora into helping him release Vatu into the world. And once Vatu was released from his prison, Unilock merged with him during harmonic convergence, allowing him to become the Dark Avatar. What's crazy about this is he's the first and only Dark Avatar, essentially creating an evil version of the concept. Now, why would Unilock do this? Well, he grew up the younger brother of Tarlock, and he was always jealous of him. He was pissed off that he would not become the chief of the northern and southern water tribes, as that is rightfully his older brother's claim. So he ended up framing his brother for actions that nearly destroyed the northern water tribe, which had him banished, making Unilock their new heir. Basically, he's a character that just wants to be in power and could care less about stepping on his family and loved ones to get there. He also merged with Vatu. He thought by doing this, he would become the ruler of the new world, where humans and spirits are united under his control. But as we know, Kora wasn't about to let that happen. At number 4 is Zahir. Zahir is the leader of the Red Lotus, a self-proclaimed anarchist organization. He is also an airbender, but only recently gained these powers after Vatu's harmonic convergence, a cosmic event that gave several characters in the universe the ability to airbend who didn't originally have the ability. Zahir mastered airbending very quickly, so much so he figured out that if he would let go of all his earthly tethers, he would unlock the ability to fly, which he did, being only the second person ever to unlock this airbending ability, and the first person we ever see with the ability of flight. Zahir is another villain who thinks he has good intentions. His goal is to create a world with no governments or leaders where people are free to govern themselves. He strongly believes in the natural order of things and wants everything to be reset with no one in control or in power, essentially letting the strongest survive, setting everything back to ground zero at an equal playing field, and is willing to kill and get rid of anyone who wants to stop him from this reset. He's an extremist who is incredibly intelligent and powerful, being one of the strongest airbenders in all of the Avatar universe. Again, the dude straight up unlocked the ability of flight, something Avatar Aang didn't do. What I'm saying is he's a physical threat, but also served as an incredibly psychological threat to Avatar Kora. Even upon his defeat, he lingered in her mind, serving as a block to her true Avatar powers. He is easily one of my favorite villains in the series. Making the top 3 is Aman. Aman is one of the coolest villains of Avatar. He is the first villain of the Legend of Korra series, so some would say the best. Aman led the Equalist movement, the group of people that hate benders, as they think benders see themselves as better than everyone else. Needless to say, a villain who hates benders and can remove their bending is extremely threatening. He also looks extremely cool. We eventually learned the reason why Aman went full villain is because his dad was a notorious bloodbender who was defeated by Avatar Aang. He's also the secret brother of Tarlock and was trained to bloodbend by their father. Aman, however, would develop a strong resentment towards all benders after his father was defeated by Avatar Aang, and then the subsequent rejection he experienced being a bloodbender, which is a bending form that is extremely frowned upon. In any case, he's an extremely terrifying, formidable villain who was even able to strip Avatar Kora of her bending. But luckily for her, the Avatar spirit of Aang was able to restore it later on. And just missing the #1 spot is Princess Azula. She is the daughter of the Fire Lord Oai and brother of Prince Zuko. Being a member of the Royal Fire Nation family, she is an extremely skilled firebender. So skilled, in fact, she was able to master Lightning Generation, which is a rare and extremely advanced form of firebending. Pure and simple, she's evil. The only person she is loyal to is her father, the Fire Lord. All she wants is to conquer the world and rise in the ranks of the Fire Nation. A goal she ultimately accomplishes when her father deems her worthy of becoming the new Fire Lord, and Oai takes the new mantle of the Phoenix King, intending to become the ruler of the world. Azula hates her brother Zuko as she senses good in him and hates him for it. Basically, we learn she kind of sees her late mother in Prince Zuko and hates it as their mother had good in her and didn't approve of Azula being ruthless like her father Oai. Azula is often seen tricking and manipulating Zuko or even helping him for her own personal goals in certain scenarios. But again, all she wants to do is take down the Avatar and anyone who has any bit of good in them. She's an extremely complex character and goes off the walls by the end of the series. Even her closest friends and allies, Mai and Ty Lee, abandon her. Ultimately, she's a villain who never has any redemption. The series ends with her going insane, which makes her story incredibly tragic and complex, but also one of the evilest. And last but certainly not least, we have Fire Lord Oai at #1. Putting it simple, he is the first and most significant villain in all the Avatar series. His character story and eventually boss battle with Avatar Aang was built up over the course of 3 books and/or 3 seasons. 3 seasons of storytelling and anticipation before the climactic and epic battle in the series finale. Now, as the Fire Lord, he is the ruler of the Fire Nation and the most powerful firebender. He is ruthless, tyrannical, and only wants to conquer every other nation to place the Fire Nation's dominance over the world. And he's willing to do this by any means necessary. He's a character that's not seen much until book 3. In the first 2 books, he's just pulling the strings and talked about or alluded to, sending out his Fire Nation soldiers all over the world to conquer every other nation and kingdom. But this all leads to the series finale with Aang now mastering all 4 elements. He finally faces off against the Fire Lord in one of the best animated battles I've ever seen. It ends with Aang learning energy bending from the lion turtle, stripping the Fire Lord of his firebending permanently, and him being locked away forever. Every evil thing in Avatar The Last Airbender basically stems from Fire Lord Oai. He's the reason Prince Zuko is originally evil, as Zuko just wants to prove himself to his father. Same thing with Azula. She wants to be like her dad. Every Fire Nation soldier works for the Fire Lord. Again, it all goes back to him. It differs from The Legend of Korra in the sense that every book or season for The Legend of Korra had a different villain. Amazing villains, but every villain only has one season, where the Fire Lord was the end-all be-all for the entirety of the Avatar The Last Airbender. So for us, he is easily the #1 villain in Avatar. With all that said, what did you guys think of our list and what would yours be? Let us know down in the comments. And just as a reminder, use our exclusive code VARIANT to score your C7 chair today. Just visit flexispot.com or click the link in the description. Other than that, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.